Now, you may not have heard, but 7 candidates took the stage last night for the 6th Democratic primary debate. And surprise, surprise, the first question of the night was about impeachment.
The case to be made is, yeah, certainly I disagree with Trump on virtually all of his policies. But what conservatives, I think, understand is that we cannot have a president with that temperament who is dishonoring the presidency of the United States.
The president left the House with no choice. And I think a lot of us are watching this process, watching Washington go through the motions, and not expecting much but a foregone conclusion when it gets to the Senate. But we cannot give in to that sense of helplessness, because that's what they want.
Last night, the president was impeached, and everyone now in the Senate who's taken a constitutional oath to uphold our Constitution, and that doesn't mean loyalty to an individual. It doesn't mean loyalty to a political party. It means loyalty to our country.
What we have to do is we have to stop being obsessed over impeachment, which unfortunately strikes many Americans like a ball game where you know what the score is going to be, and start actually digging in and solving the problems that got Donald Trump elected in the first place.
So in addition to talking about impeachment, Buttigieg took a nasty swipe at Vice President Mike Pence, and Vice President Joe Biden made a bit of a gaffe. We're going to be joining us now with GOP response is Tim Murtaugh. He's communications director for the Trump 2020 campaign. Tim, great to see you.
Great to see you guys. Thank you very much.
So I want to queue up. This is the main thing that caught Crystal and I's eye from last night, which is that, this may not be enough to lose in the Democratic primary, but Joe Biden, in effect, said that he admitted that he would sacrifice blue-collar jobs in favor of green regulation. Let's take a listen to that, and we're going to get your reaction.
Vice President Biden, I'd like to ask you, 3 consecutive American presidents have enjoyed stints of explosive economic growth due to a boom in oil and natural gas production. As president, would you be willing to sacrifice some of that growth, even knowing potentially that it could displace thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of blue-collar workers in the interest of transitioning to that greener economy?
The answer is yes.
Kind of a stunning admission there, Tim. I mean, that reminded me very much of Hillary Clinton saying that we need to put some coal miners out of work. And that's, how will you be making use of it? Let us know.
Well, we're not convinced, and we don't know exactly who our opponent's going to be yet. But should it turn out to be Joe Biden, I suspect you might be seeing clips like that coming to a TV screen near you. But it's very much like what Hillary Clinton did with the coal miners. And Joe Biden and all the other Democrats are in a tough spot because they are so beholden to the left wing of their party that they have to embrace the Green New Deal. And the Green New Deal requires that you declare war on our traditional sources of energy. And so that's what Joe Biden is embracing right there when he's talking about sacrificing these jobs. And that's the spot that Democrats are in right now because they have to adhere to the left. What that means is going after those sources of energy, it means 10 million jobs nationally. Of course, a lot of those jobs are in key battleground states, the upper Midwest, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, states like that. And that means also not only those jobs lost, but higher heating and cooling bills for all Americans. And how do you make that case to somebody in Florida in the summer or somebody in Minnesota or New Hampshire during the winter that it's going to cost you more to cool your house or heat your house, and in extreme times of the year that people notice those things, and you better believe that we're going to be pointing that out.
So you all haven't been shy about making that case. Republicans in general haven't been shy about making that case. And yet the Green New Deal is majority support among the American people. Why do you think that is?
I think once you have to, it's our job, you have to get inside it and explain to people what does this actually mean. The Democrats are really good at putting nice, fancy, pleasant-sounding labels on things.
No, they're not. They're terrible.
Well, the Green New Deal is one of them. You just listed a perfect example. The Green New Deal. I mean, gosh, who could be against that? It sounds so nice.
Yeah.
But then you unpack it and you say, well, what this really means is doing completely away with oil and natural gas, gasoline for your cars, and eventually your car. And they want to limit your choices. They want to limit air travel. They want to force people to take trains when it's not the most convenient thing. And they do want to eventually eliminate internal combustion engines, which means your car. That is what's in the Green New Deal. If you explain that, the numbers fall dramatically.
Ironically, I think Joe Biden comes, you're not going to agree with this, but that's okay. Joe Biden comes from this old school way of talking about climate where it's this either or and you got to have the trade-off. And even though I know people like Tim would say, oh, AOC is the worst and she's so scary, et cetera, the way that she's framed the Green New Deal leads with the economic transition. It's very explicit. We're not going to leave leave blue-collar workers behind. So to me, Sagar, it was really interesting to hear him fall into that trap just so readily when Bernie Sanders had a much better answer on
He
this.
did, I mean, politically, right, on whether the practical implications, we have no idea. But politically, it was a terrible, I think, idea in order to say, yes, I'm willing to sacrifice blue-collar jobs. I do want to ask you, Tim, I thought you heard the segment we were doing earlier about Andrew Yang and his answer on impeachment. Now, I mean, impeachment, obviously, everybody else kind of answered it in a much more traditional way. What did you make of his answer? I mean, I know he's an opponent, but I thought the answer was, I mean, talking about the underlying issues, tell us about those issues that you're speaking to on the campaign and just like how far out of impeachment is away from that.
Well, I think Andrew Yang's answer on impeachment is a surefire way to get uninvited to the next debate. I mean, because the fact is, Democrats, the ones running for president and the ones in Congress and the extreme fringe of their party, they are obsessed with impeachment and getting rid of this president one way or another. They've been talking about it since before he was even the Republican nominee. And so that sort of talk about how, hey, maybe we're too obsessed with impeaching the president is not welcome in the Democrat Party, and I think
maybe in the elites, but I mean amongst the actual
not on
people,
the stage,
right?
and not in the House of Representatives. That's for sure, because Nancy Pelosi's not tolerating any dissension. Look at what the attention that the three who dared oppose her the other day on the impeachment vote. The only part of the opposition, the only part of the impeachment vote the other day that was bipartisan was the opposition. And Nancy Pelosi said she didn't want to do impeachment for the longest time because it would be divisive for the country, and she wouldn't do it if it didn't have bipartisan support. Well, it is divisive, we know that, and it does not have bipartisan support, and she went forward anyway.
Yeah.
Tim, we hear from Democratic candidates and their surrogates all the time that they don't hear about impeachment on the campaign trail. People are asking, of course, about health care, they're asking about climate, they're asking about wages, et cetera. Do you all, on the other side, do you hear about impeachment from Donald Trump supporters on the trail?
When you go and ask people what they're dealing with in their daily lives, impeachment does not come up. They are most concerned with the idea that the economy is good. They're proud of that. They like the president's policies on that. They like the fact that we are now a net energy exporter. For example, we were just talking about energy. They like the fact that the president's improving our trade deals, improving the United States standing on the world stage, all sorts of those things. If impeachment is discussed when we're out on the campaign trail, it's really more in a sense of moral outrage about what they're trying to do to a president who was elected by 63 million Americans, and the fact that the Democrats in Congress are trying to nullify the votes of those 63 million Americans who voted for him in 2016. That's the way it comes.
And I think it's a rightful outrage, and it shows in the fundraising numbers, which is, I have these in front of me, which is that in November, the RNC has raised $20.6 million. I mean, from within the internal campaign, without revealing the specifics unless you want to, how is impeachment done for you guys? I mean, have you raised more money than ever?
The short answer is yes. Every time the Democrats and the media go into a frenzy like they did on Wednesday with the vote, we collect more data, we have greater interaction with the voters, and we raise more money. The president's re-election campaign gets bigger and stronger. Wednesday and Thursday, the 48 hours at the beginning and the day after the actual vote on Wednesday, we raised $10 million in small dollar donations online. That's just in 48 hours. So 2 days, $5 million a day, 2 days running, $10 million in 48 hours. And so that's what impeachment has done to the president's supporters. They've energized them in a way. I didn't think it was necessarily possible to have the president's supporters more energized than they already are, but Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff and the Democrats have done exactly that.
So it seems to me like the Democratic race is coming down essentially to two poles of the party. Biden, who's the restorer of normalcy, let's go back to the way things were in the Obama administration, and Bernie Sanders, who's let's have the political revolution, let's do something totally different, maybe more responsive to that sort of populist energy that President Trump really capitalized on. As you all are evaluating these two candidates, I mean, what do you think their strengths are? What do you think their weaknesses are? And don't tell me that they just both suck and they're going to get crushed. Let's hear how you're thinking about this.
To us, you're going to hate this answer, but it really doesn't matter to us who comes out, because we know that the issue set really that whoever the candidate is going to be is going to be the same. Talk about Joe Biden. Joe Biden was a terrible candidate the first 2 times he ran for president. I don't know why anyone thought he would be better the 3rd time around, right? If he is the eventual nominee, then we think that's just great. We'll run against him. If it's Bernie or Elizabeth Warren, personalities might be a little bit different. It changes around the edges how you might approach an opponent like that. But really, the issue set is the same. We talked about the Green New Deal. They're going to be embracing the Green New Deal. They're going to have a lenient, we would call it an open borders immigration policy.
It's hard to believe that you're looking at it that way because
it's
they're
true.
so.
The
healthcare
issue is going to be roughly the same no matter who the candidate is.
It's not the same though. I mean, you've got one who's Medicare for all. You've got one who's a public option.
But the Democrats try to hide behind the public option.
But more fundamentally, there's a very different vision of how we move forward. Do we go back to the pre-Trump era? Is President Trump an aberration, quote unquote, or is this a symptom of a deeper problem? I mean, to me, it's night and day between Senator Sanders and Vice President Biden. So I don't know how you could see them as essentially equivalent, be planning the same strategy essentially against both of them.
Well, let's talk about the healthcare, for example. Bernie, of course, is Medicare for all, and he would it's a complete government takeover of the healthcare system immediately. Joe Biden hides behind the public option. It is the same result by a different means. When you have the public option, it strangles employer-provided private healthcare just the same as Medicare for all does. It just goes at it a different way. You offer a public option, people take that. It has fewer people in the employer-provided pool, means that rates go up.
So what you're saying is you're going to call them both socialists.
They are both the eventual takeover of healthcare system by the federal government. It is absolutely the case. The Wall Street Journal did an analysis of the public option. It kills private, public, employer-provided healthcare just the same as Medicare for all does. It is the same end result. They can't say, "Oh, mine's a public option," and hope that that is a fig leaf.
Do you think that Vice President Biden is a socialist?
I think that the policies that he's espousing when he's talking about forcing people in the Green New Deal and in government takeover of healthcare, which is what his plan will end up in, and in raising taxes on virtually all Americans. When you say you're going to repeal the Trump tax cuts, it means you're going to raise taxes on almost 90% of Americans. Those are big government socialist policies, yes.
Thanks for the preview of this, of the eventual general election and everything, Tim. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next up on Rising, we're going to ask Team Rising about the frontrunners' performances.
Also, wine caves. You're not going. We cannot talk about them too much. We're going to do just that when Rising continues.